Covering a Rolling Stones song is never an easy challenge. Some rock, while others fall short. We're here to celebrate the former. Here are 20 of the better covers of Stones songs throughout the years in chronological order. Not only was As Tears Go By a top 10 hit for the famed English singer, but it actually came out before the Stones released the song themselves. Written by Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, this is one of the band's most popular ballads, yet Faithful's version tends to be more celebrated. Faithful became a household name and eventually an international pop rock star after its release. The best and worst TV spin-offs. Little, in name only. When Little Richard took to the studio or the stage, he always went big. That was no different when he covered Brown Sugar. With the screaming and screeching, wailing, and howling, Richard's soulful version of this Stones classic needs to be near the top of any list of covers. Like most Little Richard songs, his cover is a party for the ears. The British soul singer made a name for herself working with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, but this rousing version of Play with Fire also turned heads in the early 1970s. There is plenty of bombast in Copeland's voice and almost an arena rock feel to her rendition of this track. 25 blockbuster films that were downright awful. With more than a dash of Ziggy Stardust, Bowie delivers a space-age effort on this great Stones tune. His version is just as up-tempo as the original, with great piano work amid an original rendition that truly encapsulated the musical moment in time of the legendary singer. Some critics thought it was a little overblown, but Bowie was all about going big and pushing the conceptual envelope at this point in his career. Many have covered this rock and roll classic, but none as unique as new wave rockers Devo. It was the second cut off the band's acclaimed debut Q, Are We Not Men? We Are Devo. There was nothing quite like it at the time, and Devo's version is still one of the great cover songs of all time. If anything, it introduced the world to one of the most creative acts in music history. 20 Celebrities You Forgot appeared on Frasier. As legend has it, Mick Jagger suggested Ronstadt cover, Tumbling Dice, to showcase her rock and roll side. It proved to be a successful move. The cover was a top 40 hit for the famed singer, and she performed it in the 1978 film FM. The movie was a box office bust, but the soundtrack went platinum and further solidified Ronstadt as one of the most popular singers of the 1970s. One of the Stones' deeper and underrated cuts. Found on Kiss Dynasty album with guitarist Ace Frehley on vocals, the band's version is faster, plugged in, and truly one of the highlights of an otherwise mediocre record. The song became a popular deep cut for Kiss as well and remains one of Frehley's great musical contributions. No Words, the 20 greatest instrumental tracks ever recorded. To the casual alternative post-punk fan, England's The March Violets were not on many radars during the 1980s. At least not in America. That said, the band offered one of the better contributions to the soundtrack for the 1987 John Hughes film Some Kind of Wonderful, with this cover of the Rolling Stones cut from 1967's Between the Buttons. It's an above-average cover, 80s infused, and an homage to the co-female lead of the movie, Amanda Jones, played by Leah Thompson. Simply listed as Sympathy on Jane's self-titled live album. For fans of the band, this was perhaps the introduction, bongos and all, to a unique and conceptually creative sound from these 1990s alternative rock giants. Plenty of groups have taken their shots at covering Sympathy for the Devil, and not all have succeeded. This effort might rank at the top of the list for its originality if anything. The most underrated rock guitarists of all time. The Rolling Stones version of this track was originally the B-side to 1965's gem, Get Off My Cloud, and released on the UK edition of the Out of Our Head album. Yet, this version from the Scottish alt-pop rockers might be more well-known, especially in the United States. With a little reggae flair, the tune became quite the radio hit and enjoyed heavy rotation on MTV. One thing we can say about Amos's version of this exceptional Stones ballad is that it's truly her own. Amos's distinctive voice, grace on the piano, and ability to add another level of emotion to any song she performs remain why she is an entertainer for the ages. A song like Angie showcases the individual performer, and the attention Amos brings to herself is all good. 20 iconic TV shows that have zero rewatchability. This is another Stones cover that enjoyed international acclaim. The Sundays were a well-respected British indie rock group in the 1990s, but this take on the country tinge, beloved ballad generated love from the masses. The Sundays version also found a home in the 1996 psychological thriller Fear. While many groups and artists have taken this song on, the Sundays offering still shines among the brightest. Heavily distorted with an almost Hendrix feel, Prince made the cover of this rock and roll classic distinctively his own. And we would not expect anything less from one of the most creative musicians of our time. It's also another example of Prince's immense talent as a guitarist. 25 iconic films that also became successful TV shows. In all its blistering, head-on punk fashion, Social D knocked it out of the park with this cover of another Stones favorite. Mike Ness and company are no strangers to successful covers of legendary songs. See Social Distortion's version of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, maybe because frontman Ness truly appreciates the history of rock and roll and the attitude that comes along for the ride. Undoubtedly, the Folksmen are the greatest fictional folk music group of all time. However, the band, featuring veteran actors Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer, has even enjoyed success off-screen. The trio's version of the Stones' early 1980s rocker, Start Me Up, is the farthest thing from a folk song. Maybe that's why it works so well. The 50 Worst Films from 50 Great Directors. Recorded for a project featuring music from the popular ABC show Desperate Housewives in the early 2000s. Fair was one of the more dynamic performers during the angst-ridden alternative rock years of the 1990s and into the next decade. She doesn't disappoint on this version of the rollicking tune that shows off many facets of her talent. Like Miss Amanda Jones, from 1967's Between the Buttons record, it's a beautiful song from the band's early days and seemingly made for a legendary talent like Lindsey Buckingham to take on. In all its acoustic greatness, Buckingham picks his way through a stellar version of a song that shines, whether played in a coffeehouse or on stage in front of thousands. 20 great but forgotten movies from the 70s. One of the Rolling Stones' more underrated works, Fool to Cry, is also among the band's most soulful offerings. Indie popsters Tegan and Sarah more than did it justice when asked by actress-writer Lena Dunham to cover the song for the Girls soundtrack. What stands out about this cover is that it shows the depth of vocal talent from the duo. Everybody and their mother have covered one of the Stones' most famous songs. So, it's actually quite impossible to pick the best one among the countless attempts at Paint It Black. However, uniqueness counts. Sierra did not try to replicate the song but rather made it hers without taking away any of the grit and haunting deliciousness from the original. 20 characters who would make the absolute worst significant others. Pretty much anything Jason Isbell does is going to be brilliant. This is no exception. Backed ably by the 400 unit, Isbell has made Can't You Hear Me Knocking a somewhat regular cover during live performances. And, in most cases, it's among the highlights of his shows. It's a straightforward rock and roll approach that further reinforces Isbell as one of the great live musicians at the moment. Did you enjoy this slideshow?